Hello all. Nice to meet you again through prelims through question. The objective of the program will be that we try giving you as much input as possible for the prelims preparation of 2021. तो प्रोग्राम का जो औचित्य है वो ये इतना ही है कि हम तुम्हें प्रिपेयर कर सकें प्रीलिम्स थ्रू क्वेश्चंस के थ्रू 21 के प्रीलिम्स के लिए। अब मैंने जो इकोनॉमिक्स में डिज़ाइन किया इस प्रोग्राम को, मैंने डिज़ाइन किया है कि मैं तुम्हें 2020 क्वेश्चंस के स्लॉट में सॉल्व करता जाऊंगा चीज़ों को और आपको मिलते जाएंगे इनपुट्स। तो 20 क्वेश्चंस के स्लॉट में काम करेंगे, एनीथिंग बिटवीन 15 to 20 क्वेश्चंस, और हर स्लॉट में एक ऑब्जेक्टिव होगा। जैसे अभी पहले 3-4 स्लॉट्स में, इन द फर्स्ट 2-3 स्लॉट्स, मे बी 4 स्लॉट्स, the objective will be to get you acquainted to last 6-7 years of question paper of prelims, what kind of questions have been asked in economics and how you could have prepared for it, how you could have answered it. पिछले 6-7 सालों में जो सवाल आए हैं प्रीलिम्स में, उनके लिए कैसे प्रिपेयर करो, उनको कैसे सॉल्व कर सकते थे, क्या थिंकिंग होनी चाहिए थी, पहली ट्रेनिंग उसकी होगी। So in the first 4-5 hours, we will train ourselves to understand how to approach that. Since economics is a subject which is a little technical in nature, I am not giving you extended 4-hour sessions. I am trying to make it question based. 20 questions, 15 questions, so that you can understand the concepts discussed, understand what we are trying to deliver to you, so that when you see the next video, it should be an addition to the previous video. हर अगला वीडियो पिछले वीडियो से कुछ एडिशन लेके चलेंगे, कुछ नई बात सीखेंगे. We'll try learning something new, an approach how to solve questions, how to save time in the prelims exam, how to choose the right question rather than attempting it. कुछ questions ऐसे होते हैं जिनको आपको choose ही नहीं करना चाहिए, वो भी सिखाऊंगा. That there are certain questions which you should ideally not choose at all. So I will teach you how to go about that. So this is the approach we will use in developing ourselves on prelims through question system. This will be my economics approach towards you regarding that. Gradually, we will shift towards covering current affairs question, technical questions, questions based on conceptual details. That is how we will go about it one by one. Mainly, when you look at prelims, the questions that they ask you are A. NCERT concepts. ये पूछते हैं आपसे, NCERT के concepts पूछते हैं. B. Fiscal policy concepts, budget, types of budgeting, fiscal deficit concepts, revenue deficit concepts, consolidation concepts. Third, monetary policy concepts, concepts related to central banking, concepts related to banking reforms, concepts related to to bond market. So those are asked. Fourth, inclusive growth concepts at times, concepts related on poverty elimination, inequality development, inclusion in the system. Fifth, concepts related to to social sector growth. Sixth, concepts on the basis of or questions on the basis of international institutions, publications that they do, etc. And also they ask you questions based on planning, questions based on India's development strategies, policy programs. The recent policy programs are always important, So we will also try designing our questions in a manner that all these cubicles are covered. ये जो अलग-अलग खाने हैं, इनको भरेंगे कि जो डिफरेंट, कभी फिस्कल पे पूछते हैं, कभी मॉनेटरी पे पूछते हैं, एनसीईआरटी से पूछते हैं, बजट से पूछते, सॉरी बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट से पूछते हैं. तो ये जितने भी अलग अलग टॉपिक्स हैं उन्हें एक एक करके कवर करेंगे. लेकिन अभी जो आज की क्लास में शुरुआत करूंगा, आज जो बातचीत करूंगा, उसमें हम बातचीत करेंगे पास्ट ईयर पेपर्स से, और इन पास्ट ईयर पेपर्स के थ्रू ट्राई करेंगे रीच आउट करना कि हमें क्या क्या करना चाहिए अपने आंसर क्रिएटिंग स्किल्स को रिफॉर्म करने के लिए. देखो, रिवाइज करते समय जब तुम अभी पढ़ोगे प्रीलिम्स के लिए, व्हेन यू विल स्टडी फॉर प्रीलिम्स एंड व्हेन यू विल डू रिविजन, it becomes very important to know these are the concepts I should focus on. What is the best way to know that, to see the trend that they have created. अगर हम देखें पिछले 5 सालों में, 6 सालों में क्या किया. So I will start off with that. So 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14 papers, we will try. I have picked up some questions from there. Mainly questions which can teach us few things. तो हर पेपर से मैंने 4 क्वेश्चन, 5 क्वेश्चन, 6 क्वेश्चन पिक कर लिए हैं. And picking up those questions, I am trying to teach you how you could have approached the prelims exam. So I start the discussion with you. I start the discussion with you talking from question 1, See, the first question is, with reference to land reforms in independent India, which one of the following statement is correct? With reference to land reforms in independent India, which one of the following statement is correct? अब वो expect क्या कर रहे हैं? Knowledge base should be of knowing the features of land reforms. कि आपका knowledge base जो है वो features of land reform जानना चाहिए. तो जानना क्या है आपको उसके लिए? What should you know to answer this question? What is land reform? And what was the objective of land reform? And what are the different ways in which land reform can be done? So land reform is when you improve the land distribution pattern, and when you improve the land structural pattern, like removing intermediaries, etc. How do you do land reforms? There are four main methods. You do it by removing the intermediaries, zamindari abolition and all. You do it by giving security to the tenant. You do it by land sealing, and you do it by land consolidation. So ये दिमाग को पहले क्वेश्चन पढ़ते हुए यही दिमाग, अच्छा ठीक है, लैंड रिफॉर्म मतलब मैं ये सब जानता हूँ. Then the options say the sealing laws were aimed at family holdings and not individual holdings. The sealing laws were aimed at family holdings and not individual holdings. ये correct नहीं हो सकता. The problem area here, this will not be correct. The problem area that you see here is individual holdings part. It included individual holdings. So our discussion, the problem is the word not. अब ये भी वो जानबूझ के करते हैं. They deliberately do it. In case you miss the word not, then you will mark it correct. जल्दी में हम हैं ही, we are in a hurry. हरी में क्या करेंगे? पहला ऑप्शन दिखा, लगा ठीक लग रहा है, मार्क करो, आगे बढ़ते हैं. So be careful. This will not be the answer. The major aim was providing agricultural land to all the landless. Yes, this was a major aim. अब देखो जैसे ही ये करेक्ट आंसर मिला, टाइम बचाओ, आगे बढ़ो. C and D को पेरिफेरली पढ़ो. It resulted in cultivation of cash crops. तो जैसे ही आए resulted in cultivation of cash crops, समझ गए स्टेटमेंट गलत है. Don't waste your time on that then. And then land reforms permitted no exemptions to the ceiling limits. Incorrect again. There were exemptions for self-cultivated land. There was exemption for land which was used for plantation purpose. तो exemptions तो थे, तो D incorrect हो गया. तो correct क्या रहा? B, that is major aim was redistribution. So elimination से कभी solve करोगे? Sometimes you will use elimination to solve it, but in these kind of questions you are helped better if your knowledge base is concrete. If you have read land reforms well, if you know the features of land reform, you will be able to solve these kind of questions. Always, it is always easy to solve it. So the answer you will give here is, major aim of land reform was providing agricultural land to all the landless. Then the second question we see is, Global Competitiveness Report is published by. अब ये क्वेश्चन आया कहाँ से? इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस से. जब हमें बोलते हैं इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस जानो, IMF, वर्ल्ड बैंक, AIIB, वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम, तो इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस से उठकर आया ये क्वेश्चन. दिस क्वेश्चन कम्स फ्रॉम इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस. दे चेक, एंड व्हाई डू दे आस्क यू अबाउट ग्लोबल कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस रिपोर्ट? दिस इज फ्रॉम 2019. पेपर, ये जो डिस्कशन है क्वेश्चन का, ये 2019 से है. 2018 से 19 तक ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस रिपोर्ट और ग्लोबल कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस रिपोर्ट, इन दोनों में इंडिया ऊपर जा रहा था और इसकी लगातार चर्चा हो रही थी. Between 2018 and 19, in ease of doing business report and global competitiveness report, India was improving its position, and this was continuously debated in the newspapers, in public domain. There was a program extensively done by Rajya Sabha TV on India's rising rank or improving rank in global indices, in which they had given half of the program to the global development report. So when you look at it, global competitiveness report, तो वहाँ से ये सवाल आया. अब ग्लोबल कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस रिपोर्ट इज पब्लिश्ड बाय वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम. वो चेक क्या करते हैं? जब आप, और ये अभी भी यूज करना, इस एग्जाम में भी यूज करना, इफ यू सी सम काइंड ऑफ अ पब्लिकेशन कंटिन्यूअसली बीइंग स्टेटेड, और इफ यू सी सर्टेन इंडिसेस, अगर किसी इंडेक्स की बार बार बात होती है, जैसे ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स की बार बार बात होती है, तो पता होना चाहिए इट इज पब्लिश्ड बाय अंडर ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट रिपोर्ट बाय UNDP. because Human Development Index is continuously talked about. Multidimensional Poverty Index has been talked about even in books written by Arvind Subramaniam or Muntek Singh. So again, the check whether you have been in news or seen the news across or not. So again, MDPI by OPHI, Oxford Study on Poverty and Human Development Initiative, वो publishing agency है इसका along with UNDP, क्योंकि ये World Development Report का part है. तो ऐसे थोड़ी थोड़ी बातें हमें ध्यान में रखनी है. अब चूंकि ये सिखा रहा हूं तो एक दो बातें याद दिला देता हूं. इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड, ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट, दिस इज वन दैट दे मेजर, एंड वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक आउटलुक, दिस इज अनदर दैट दे पब्लिश. वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक आउटपुट एंड ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट, इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड के ये दो बहुत फेमस पब्लिकेशंस हैं. सिमिलरली, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, this publishes Trade and Development Report. Annual publication है उनकी, पूरे global countries के total trade and development को analyze करते हैं. The entire trade and development of global countries is analyzed here. That is Trade and Development Report. And World Bank, the most famous that they develop is World Development Report. World Development Report. So this is again something that is heavily in demand, used many places for reference. So these are the main publications of the others. ये मैंने वैसे एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से एक बोल दिया, बट ये ध्यान रखना, IMF के मेन पब्लिकेशंस, वर्ल्ड बैंक के मेन पब्लिकेशंस, वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम, ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस report published by the World Bank under the whole theory that they bring about for competition enhancement, etc. तो जो चीजें न्यूज में देखो, मैं फिर रिपीट कर रहा हूं, whatever you see in news, continuously repeated, debated, talked about, who is the publisher of such a report, you must know. Both domestic and foreign. ये सिर्फ ग्लोबल इंडिसेस ही नहीं, डोमेस्टिक में भी अगर देखते हो, इवन इन डोमेस्टिक इंडेक्स यू सी दैट समथिंग इज मेजरली इन न्यूज, डू मेक श्योर यू हैव अ गुड आइडिया ऑन दैट. Then the next question that we have, in a given year, official poverty lines are higher in some states than in others because price levels vary from state to state. देखो, poverty rates vary from state to state तो अपने आप eliminate हो जाएगा. Because poverty rates is a function of poverty line. Poverty line decides what will be the poverty rate. So if poverty rate varies from different states, that will depend on poverty line. So that cannot vary because of that. Gross state product varies from state to state, but that way again, if you start changing poverty line on the basis of gross state product, it will not then have a clear reflection of how rich and poor states can be compared. And quality of public distribution varies from state to state. ये confuse कर सकता था आपको. This had a possibility of confusing you, that quality of public distribution does vary. But remember, poverty line is a statistical concept. Statistical concept should have a statistical explanation. Poverty line की जो theory है, वो एक statistical concept है. कैसे measure होता है poverty line? You take the poverty line in terms of income. This is taken in terms of expenditure done by people, minimum expenditure required for a good standard of living. Poverty line is about minimum expenditure required for a good standard of living. और इस poverty line को करना क्या है? Deflate करना पड़ता है by using the state GDP deflator or a consumer price index or any price index for inflationary measures. So this minimum expenditure required will differ from one state to another depending on how prices have been in that state. तो poverty line calculate होता है by deflating the index and then calculating it. Economic Survey 2019-20 had 18-19, I'm sorry, had actually written an article on this or a chapter on this, and they were borrowing it from here. तो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे के जो बॉक्सेस होते हैं वो इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं, उन्हें ज़रूर देख लिया करो, स्पेशली जब टेक्निकल डिटेल्स की कुछ बात हो रही हो. सो देयर इट वाज मेंशन्ड दैट पॉवर्टी लाइन in different states is at different level because it is deflated by the state price level. जिस स्टेट में प्राइस ज़्यादा होगी वहाँ पे अगर आपका एक्सपेंडिचर ज़्यादा भी है तो भी आपकी लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड कम होगी. States which have high price level, even if people are spending more in that place, still over the entire horizon, standard of living will become lesser. तो इसीलिए हम क्या डिसाइड करते हैं? Price levels vary from state to state. That is why official poverty lines are higher in some states than in others. The income that you measure or expenditure that you mention will be different in different states, mainly because price levels are different in different states. So that expenditure has to be deflated, that has to be controlled, adjusting for price in different states. So high price state will need high expenditure levels for poverty measurement. Low price states will need low expenditure level for poverty measurement. So this is how you have to think over it. But these questions again, if you had read the article in a survey, you would be better off. If you have not, then that will then, compromise on your understanding. Now, in such questions, as soon as you see a technical term like official poverty line, read it once, spend 1 minute. If you know the reason, go for it. Don't try guessing. You will not be able to do that. These questions are fit to leave. ये वो सवाल है जिन्हें छोड़ देना चाहिए. इनमें नंबर कटने के ज़्यादा चांस रहते हैं क्योंकि फैक्चुअल एनालिसिस है और अगर फैक्ट ही नहीं पता तो एनालाइज कैसे करोगे? So in these kind of questions the danger is high because these are factual analysis, and if you don't know the fact, analysis will be difficult. The next question that we have is they consider the following statements. Now whenever they say consider the following statements, always remain careful that statements will consist of information from a singular source. Normally it is from the Press Information Bureau report published on that particular topic. Normally ये देखा है मैंने, PIBs से काफ़ी ज़्यादा borrow होता है कि वो आपसे पूछते हैं कि using that singular source and then they will put everything across. Now here they say, coal sector was nationalized by the government of India under Indira Gandhi. Alright, they give you the first statement here. Coal sector was nationalized by government of India under Indira Gandhi. In her prime ministership, that's how it happened. 1973 to 77, the whole nationalization process was going on, and she was the prime minister of the country in those days. So, okay, we understand, but again, you will need knowledge base for that. You need to know that nationalization of coal happened in 1970s, and that is when Mrs. Gandhi was the prime minister. Now coal blocks are allocated on lottery basis. Not correct. Coal blocks are all allocated through auctioning. They are allocated not only through auctions, but even electronic auctions, so physical auction, and on captive mining basis. Captive mining means that coal blocks are allocated to those firms which will use it for themselves. जो फर्म, जैसे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की कोई फर्म है, स्टील मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फर्म है, उसे अपने ही यूज के लिए कोल चाहिए, तो उसके लिए भी कोल ब्लॉक्स एलोकेट होते हैं, उनको भी. तो इंडिया में लॉटरी बेसिस पे कोल ब्लॉक एलोकेट नहीं होता, ऑक्शनिंग बेसिस पे होता है और कैप्टिव बेसिस पे होता है. ऑक्शनिंग डजंट मीन अ लॉटरी. Auctioning means the one who will bid the highest, the one who will bid the best will get the coal block. Lottery means everybody is allowed to apply and then the one whose name comes out will get the coal block. Not correct. All right. So this statement goes wrong. Till recently, India imported coal to meet the shortages, but now India is self-sufficient in coal production. Not correct again. We still import coal for our electricity production units, many places in India, and we still import coal for development of steel production in India. So India is not fully self-dependent. We still import coal. The key factor is that. And that makes the third statement incorrect. So in that case, your answer is one only. अब ऐसे क्वेश्चंस में देखो क्या करना है. अगर एग्जाम में दिमाग लगाना ही चाहते हो, अगर ये स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट है, ये पता चल जाए, तो फिर सोचना कि लॉटरी का मतलब क्या. तो ये क्वेश्चन गलत हो गया, ये सवाल, ये स्टेटमेंट, ये पता चल जाएगा. दैट लॉटरी मीन्स दैट थिंग्स विल बी पुट इन अ प्लेस एंड चिट निकाली जाएगी जिसका नाम निकल रहा है. तो समझ जाओगे नहीं, ऐसे तो होता नहीं. कोल का ऑक्शनिंग, हमारे यहाँ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑक्शनिंग से होता है. एंड देन Is India self-dependent in coal or not? Now again, continuously it keeps coming in news about the problems of power sector, where many electricity generators struggle because of imported coal being costlier. That can be the hint. Again, if you have not read good on coal and don't know this, these are the questions which you should not spend much time on. Coal देखे, statement देखे, अगर पहला ही statement नहीं जानते एक मिनट के लिए, confused हो, आगे मत जाओ. अगर पहला statement नहीं जानते, if you don't know the first statement, it means your knowledge base on coal is weak. Then your mind should feed, okay, I'll make sure that my coal sector is well prepared, but this time I'm not well prepared because I don't even know when was it nationalized. So that kind of a thinking you need to develop in your prelims exam. Remember, it's about how to manage time also over there, how to pick questions quickly so that you can answer correctly. तुम्हें 80 क्वेश्चन आंसर करने हैं, 80 क्वेश्चंस you need to answer, 78, 80, ideally you should answer like that. So if you're picking on 80 questions or 82 questions, they should be your best 82, picked in 1 minute 30 seconds each, and hence elimination is important. Then the next question that we have is, consider the following statements. Most of India's external debt, this was again from Economic Survey. Economic Survey had given entire 3 paragraphs that year on India's external debt. So it says most of India's external debt is owed by governmental entities. False. Only 19% of total external debt of India is by government. With government. तो सरकार के पास तो सिर्फ 19% ऑफ टोटल एक्सटर्नल डेट है, शॉर्ट टर्म लॉन्ग टर्म सब मिलाकर, एंड ओनली 5% इज सोवरेन गारंटीड, कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के गारंटी के साथ जो लोन है वो 5 to 6% ऑफ टोटल एक्सटर्नल डेट है. देन ऑल ऑफ इंडियाज एक्सटर्नल डेट इज डिनोमिनेटेड इन US डॉलर्स. फॉल्स अगेन. सम ऑफ इट इज डिनोमिनेटेड इन येन, सम इन यूरो, सम इन पाउंड, और मसाला बॉन्ड्स की वजह से सम इन इवन रुपीज. सारे एक्सटर्नल डेट डिनोमिनेटेड नहीं है, तो अगर तुमने मसाला बॉन्ड भी पढ़ रखा है तो समझ जाओगे सेकंड स्टेटमेंट इनकरेक्ट है. एंड इफ यू हैव गॉन थ्रू इकोनॉमिक सर्वे यू विल नो फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट इज इनकरेक्ट. सो योर आंसर विल बी नीदर 1 nor 2. In question number 5, your answer will be neither 1 nor 2. None of the 2 statements are correct. इन चीज़ों के लिए नॉलेज बेस का बेस्ट पार्ट है इकोनॉमिक सर्वे. You must have a good understanding of volume 2 economic survey. Volume 2, chapters like external sector, chapters like industry infrastructure, agriculture, monetary policy, fiscal policy, and chapter on social sector. ये 6 chapters ज़रूर अच्छे से पढ़ने चाहिए. Monetary policy, fiscal policy, agriculture, industry infrastructure, external sector and social sector. बहुत क्वेश्चंस मिलेंगे आपको. You will get several questions that you will be able to answer better. The next question that we see, which of the following is not included in the assets of a commercial bank in India? तो इसके लिए तुम्हें कमर्शियल बैंक की बैलेंस शीट याद रखने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. सोचो कैसे. एडवांसेस, जो एडवांस या लोन मैं किसी को दूंगा, मैं एक कमर्शियल बैंक हूं, इफ आई हैव गिवन एडवांसेस टू समवन, आई विल एक्सपेक्ट देम टू पे बैक इंटरेस्ट प्लस प्रिंसिपल टू मी, मस्ट बी एन असेट. तो आई कैनॉट से दिस इज नॉट एन असेट. क्वेश्चन इज नॉट इंक्लूडेड इन द असेट साइड. तो ये तो असेट ही होना चाहिए. एडवांस, वॉट एवर अर्न्स मनी फॉर मी इज एन असेट. Wherever I have to give money is a liability. So when we talk about central bank, if it earns money for me, advances, assets. Deposits are liabilities. Why? If I am a banker and you bring and deposit your money with me, then it becomes liable on me to pay you back whenever you demand it. अगर मैं एक बैंकर हूं, तुमने अपने पैसे जमा किए मेरे पास, तो लायबल है मेरे ऊपर. कंपलसरी है कि जब तुम वो पैसे मांगो मैं तुम्हें वापस दे सकूं. तो इट बिकम्स अ लायबिलिटी. सो दैट मेक्स इट अ लायबिलिटी ऑफ द कमर्शियल बैंक्स. And that is why we say that this becomes our answer, because now this cannot be an asset. As soon as you get clear on that, don't go ahead. इसके बाद आगे जाने की जरूरत नहीं. Sort it out, get ahead, and move to the next question. देखने भी मत जाओ कि अच्छा इन्वेस्टमेंट है, money at call and so on. Don't do that. I'll tell you why. Sometimes once we know the right answer, when we see bad options, they confuse us rather than helping us. So if you are convinced about your answer, ये नहीं कह रहा हूं बिल्कुल मत देखो, but peripheral look दो और unnecessarily ज़्यादा मत सोचो. I'm teaching you that there should not be needless, large, detailed thinking. Detailed thinking is important in questions where there are statements and you have to decide correct or incorrect. Questions where there is an analysis required. This is a question where this is factual. So once you know deposits are liability of the bank, they cannot be asset of the bank, and you can get ahead. You know that, okay, deposits the bank has to give, so it cannot be an asset of the bank. All right. The next question then is, in the context of India, which of the following factors are contributors to reducing the risk of a currency crisis? अब सोच, context of India तो छोड़ो, ये दुनिया के context में correct है. Currency crisis कब होती है? A currency crisis is when people lose faith in your currency. Everybody starts selling your currency based asset and starts taking some foreign currency. सब लोग आपके शेयर मार्केट में बेचने लगते हैं, बॉन्ड मार्केट में बेचने लगते हैं. So your bond market see heavy sale, share market see heavy sale. Nobody wants to invest in your country in financial assets. Then you have a currency crisis because the confidence in your currency is gone. Let's see now foreign currency earnings of India's IT sector. इससे तो currency crisis नहीं होगा. Inflow of foreign exchange hoga will make India's currency system stronger. So this will help in reducing the risk of a currency crisis. Anything that adds to your foreign exchange reserves reduces the risk of a currency crisis. Anything that adds to your foreign exchange reserves reduces the risk of a currency crisis. So that means this is a correct statement. Increasing the government expenditure, but think, increasing government expenditure will increase fiscal deficit. Increasing government expenditure will increase fiscal deficit, which will put pressure on current account deficit. And hence, this cannot be a method of saving from currency crisis. अगर सरकार के खर्चे बढ़ेंगे, inflation बढ़ेगा क्योंकि आपके डिमांड बढ़ रहा है. Aggregate demand rising, fiscal deficit rising, high inflation, exports become uncompetitive, my current account deficit becomes troublesome, and my currency crisis rather may happen. 1991 का crisis का एक बहुत बड़ा कारण था ये. So if you have studied 1991 crisis, you would know that the crisis was heavily due to government fiscal deficit being high. So ये गलत हो जाएगा. Remittances from Indians abroad adds to foreign exchange reserves must be correct. So that means 1 and 3 only will help in mitigating currency crisis, others will not. Fiscal deficit बढ़ने से, government expenditure बढ़ने से currency crisis नहीं solve होगा. Rather it will worsen it because it will increase inflationary tendencies, weaken my currency. But if remittances come, if export income comes, currency will become stronger because there will be more demand for my currency and there will be more increase in my foreign exchange reserves. For such questions, the best place to refer is NCERT chapter on balance of payment. अगर आप chapter on balance of payment पढ़ते हो NCERT का, आप ये सवाल आंसर कर सकते हो. You know, because such chapters help you in building your basics. So it's very important that you read these chapters well, build your basics, and that will give you the strength to solve such questions without any hassle. पक्का exam में आराम से solve करोगे फिर. You will be able to solve it easily. The next question that we see, with reference to India's 5-year plans, which of the following statement are correct? Now the question says, this is with reference to India's 5-year plans. The question says that from the second 5-year plan, there was a determined thrust towards substitution of basic and capital goods industries. True, Mahalanobis model. You know, that from the second 5-year plan, there was a thrust towards substitution of basic and capital goods industries. That substitute your industries with basic and capital goods industries being made more and more primordial. कुछ लोगों ने इस क्वेश्चन को इंटरप्रेट किया ये सोचकर कि सब्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ का मतलब है कि कैपिटल और बेसिक गुड्स हटा दी जाएंगी और कोई और इंडस्ट्री लाई जाएंगी. ये गलती मत करना. Some people interpreted it thinking that this means substituting capital and basic goods industries and bringing some other industries. No. Substitution of always implies in English language that you are changing one in favor of another, and this favor was now on basic and capital goods industry. So please don't confuse yourself with that. The fourth five-year plan adopted the objective of correcting the earlier trend of concentration of wealth and economic power. Yes, one of the objective of fourth five-year plan was poverty alleviation, गरीबी हटाओ. ये स्लोगन मिसेस गांधी ने 1970 में दिया था, 69-70 में. 69 के इलेक्शंस के समय ये बहुत ज़्यादा फेमस हुआ था, 67 के इलेक्शन के समय. तो 1967 इलेक्शंस, 1969 प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन, इन सब समय में ये गरीबी हटाओ वर्ड आता था. फोर्थ फाइव-ईयर प्लान वाज 69 to 74. One objective was poverty alleviation, गरीबी हटाओ. So it did focus on objective of correcting increased concentration of wealth. और कैसे सोच सकते थे? Removing privy purses 1969, nationalization of banks 1969, the year of five-year plan initiated, fourth five-year plan. तो अगर ये knowledge base use करोगे, you will be thinking, अगर नहीं भी पता, even if you don't know, if you have that knowledge, you can guess that okay, yes, fourth five-year plan must have concentrated on abolition of concentration of wealth. In the fifth plan, for the first time, the financial sector was included as an integral part of the plan. No, in the fifth plan, it was not included. First time, financial sector was included as an integral part in eighth five-year plan. पहली बार फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर को अगर इंक्लूड किया गया प्लानिंग में तो वो एट्थ फाइव-ईयर प्लान में था. सो इन दैट केस आवर आंसर इज 1 and 2 only. So the answer will become 1 and 2 only to this. But remember again, you need to know your planning. A good place to read planning is topics. You can either read our notes. I've given you some extensive notes on planning. So if you are our student, अगर आप next IAS के student हो, तो आपको planning पे कुछ detailed notes मिल जाएंगे. अगर आप नहीं हो next IAS के student, तो उस केस में मिश्रा एंड पुरी रेफर कर सकते हो या हमारे notes पढ़ सकते हो. ये promotion जैसा लगता है तो मुझे थोड़ी embarrassment है ये बोलने में, लेकिन otherwise मिश्रा एंड पुरी पढ़ो. अगर तुम्हें लगता है नहीं सर तुम्हारे notes तो नहीं पढ़ेंगे, हमें आपका notes नहीं पढ़ना, ठीक है, तो मिश्रा एंड पुरी पढ़ो. बहुत ही अच्छे discussion है planning पे उसमें. Read Mishra and Puri, you will get some good discussion on planning in Mishra and Puri because that gives a detailed understanding of what was the objective of first five, second five-year, third five-year, fourth five-year. तो हर जगह के objectives पता लग जाएंगे. Once you know what is the objective, you will be able to solve such questions. One or two questions from planning here and there might drop in. You know, that's a possibility in the normal situation. The next question I asked you was, with reference to the governance of public sector banking in India, consider the following statements. With reference to governance of public sector banking in India, consider the following statements. First, capital infusion into public sector banks by Government of India has steadily increased in the last decade. Problem यहाँ आई, steadily increased word के साथ. It has not steadily increased in the last decade. It has not steadily increased in the last decade. It increased in 2011. Then it remained steady. There was no change till 2014. Increased again in 2015. Again, it did not increase till 2018. And increased again 2018 onwards. So it did not steadily increase. ये गलत कर देता है statement को. Next was, to put the public sector banks in order, merger of associate banks with the parent SBI has been affected. This is true. This happened in 17-18 and hence there was a question on this in the prelims exam of that year. जिस साल ये हुआ उसी साल के prelims exam में ये सवाल था क्योंकि वो देखना चाहते थे कि आपने इस बात को follow किया है या नहीं. They wanted to know if you have followed this aspect or not. That the merger. तो अब क्या देखना है हमें? Number of public sector banks now in India is 12. The mergers have happened of late. So number of public sector banks now in India is 12. The largest public sector bank is State Bank of India with respect to capital infused as well as branches. The second largest bank now is Punjab National Bank. Mergers के बाद जो second largest bank है इंडिया में वो पंजाब नेशनल बैंक है. तो ऐसे दिमाग में रखना है चीज़ों को कि अच्छा ठीक है merger तो हुए banks के, how many public sector banks are now left? Which is the largest bank? Which bank has now increased its position overall? This is what you can keep in mind. If possible, try keeping in mind which bank has been merged with which. ये अगर याद रख सको तो बहुत बढ़िया कि किस बैंक को किसके साथ merge किया गया है. In prelims they can give you statements based on that. That government has merged this and this bank. Now that can be a correct statement, that can be an incorrect statement. You know, so if possible, remember it. It will again help you without doubt. So the answer we will give is 2 only. Because when you talk about this merger program of the banks, then only 2 is correct. 1 is not a correct statement. So you will choose B, 9, as the correct answer. Again, remember, अगर तुम इसे prelims में आंसर कर रहे हो और ये factual questions आते हैं, उम्मीद ऐसी की जाती है, it is expected that you would know 2. Second part you will at least know is correct. You know? Now in that case, you will eliminate D. You would know that D cannot be the answer. 2 is certainly going to be there. The problem comes in here. Steadily increased or not. Steadily increase means continuously increase every time the government infused capital. Remember, continuous increase, continuous decrease is always difficult in economics. Some fluctuations do keep happening. तो अगर guess कर रहे हो तो continuous के against ही करना ज़्यादातर सही होगा. Even if you are doing guesswork, go against the continuous word. But again, it's advisable. अच्छा, क्यों ये question पूछा हमें? This was asked because the budget of that year had given a detailed understanding of capital infusion in banks that the government had planned, including Mission Indradhanush. So since it was mentioned in the budget of that year, it appeared in the prelims question. ये नहीं कि random कहीं से उठा के पूछे. Budget में mentioned था. It talked about this capital infusion in banks. So they said, let's check if you have followed the trend or not. You know, that is the purpose again. The next question we see, it says, consider the following items: cereal grains hulled, chicken eggs cooked, fish processed and canned, newspaper containing advertising material, which are exempted under GST. Now see, this is exempted. And you get it from the idea of Blue Revolution. अगर आप Blue Revolution पढ़े हो, तो वहाँ ये mentioned रहता है that commodities which can increase output under the Blue Revolution are exempted from GST. You know? So if somebody had studied things on Blue Revolution, they would know the answer. Now the point problem, आप कहोगे सर ठीक है, ये तो पता होगा, ये नहीं included है, ये GST में है, exempted नहीं है, ये कैसे पता चलेगा? Please understand this. These cover themselves as processed food. You know? And this was debated in the parliament that year. मैं आपको एक ट्रेंड दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं. I'm trying to show a trend to you. Newspapers become important. If we are reading newspapers continuously, then these talks keep coming in them. If we are conscious, okay, if they continuously keep mentioning, newspaper prints put under GST was heavily debated. Many newspaper institutions said, already we are losing from electronic media, plus you are putting newspaper prints under GST, it will break our profitability even more. And it was published in the newspapers very frequently, and that's what they were checking. Now, once you know 4 at least, I'm just trying to teach you something here. Once you know 2 is correct and 4 is definitely not there, you will know that D will not be there anymore, and A will not be there anymore. Now it's between B and C. आप समझ गए, D तो हो नहीं सकता और A हो नहीं सकता. तो सोचो सिर्फ A, क्योंकि 1 only doesn't work. 1, 2, 3, 4, you know that 4 is not correct. So that means A, D, and C. And I mean 4 is where you know the advertising material is deducted in the system. So how do you then reconcile to it? You know, how do you then reconcile to it? You reconcile to it by finding out that, okay, then which one should I choose? You know, and they say which are exempted. Now the newspapers had mentioned that after a lot of coercion, this was exempted. So newspaper prints were exempted after a lot of news debate in the parliament. We know that with Blue Revolution, this remained exempted. With Blue Revolution, this remained exempted. Then government said processed fish and canned fish is considered as a manufacturing item rather than considered as Blue Revolution item. So they said this exemption will be taken away. Now once you know 3 exemption has been taken away, 4 is exempted, and these things are processed food which will be brought under agricultural support program, the answer we get is 1, 2, and 4, which have been exempted under GST mechanism. Yeah? First, cereal grains hulled, chicken eggs cooked, food processed, supporting agriculture, and hence included. not brought under GST. Not brought under GST. Processed fish and canned were brought under manufacturing item rather than under Blue Revolution. Again, this was heavily in news that year. तो जैसे अभी न्यूज़ में आता है, आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, अभी न्यूज़ में आता है that the government has decided about exempting the inputs used in manufacturing of sanitary napkins, so that when they have exempted sanitary napkins, there is no pressure put on people producing it. तो ये दिमाग में रखना है कि अच्छा इनपुट्स यूज्ड इन प्रोड्यूसिंग सैनिटरी नैपकिन्स इज एग्जेम्प्टेड. तो ऐसे जीएसटी पे क्वेश्चन फ्रेम हो जाते हैं. और गवर्नमेंट हैज रिड्यूस्ड जीएसटी रेट फॉर अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग प्रोग्राम. सो इनपुट्स परचेज्ड फॉर अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग, अगेन जीएसटी रेट्स विल बी लेसर. So this is the way to keep things in mind, that the GST Council meets are published in the newspaper and these details are available over there. I chose this question for a different reason. ये question मेरा choose करने का कारण अलग था. ये typical example है question का जो आपको नहीं attempt करना चाहिए. This is a typical example of a question which will take a lot of your time and has maximum chances you will get it incorrect unless you don't remember it pinpointed. क्योंकि अखबार में पढ़ते हुए कौन ध्यान रखेगा कि ये ब्लू रिवॉल्यूशन से हटा दिया गया इसे, एंड सो ऑन. सो इफ इट स्ट्राइक्स यू ग्रेट, बट मैक्सिमम चांसेस आर दैट यू विल गेट इट इनकरेक्ट. मैंने अपने लिस्ट में इस क्वेश्चन को इसीलिए चूज किया था कि आपको बता सकूं दैट दिस इज अ टिपिकल एग्जांपल ऑफ अ क्वेश्चन दैट यू शुड नॉट बी अटेम्प्टिंग, एंड हेंस आई चोज इट इन माई लिस्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. द नेक्स्ट वन इज कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग कंट्रीज: ऑस्ट्रेलिया, कैनेडा, चाइना, इंडिया, जापान, यूएसए. They say which of them are among the free trade partners of ASEAN. This was asked for a reason. RCEP was in debate here. And TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, was in debate here. ये उन debates पे based question था. So India has an FTA with ASEAN. This is something that I expect that all of you would know. Japan has an FTA with ASEAN. And now start thinking. The question that comes in is, which of the following countries or which among the following countries have a free trade agreement with ASEAN, are free trade partners of ASEAN? Now, normally what happens when you look at it, Chinese have a free trade agreement with ASEAN. कैसे आपको पता चलेगा चाइना का एक free trade agreement है? Simple reason. India has been claiming that Chinese have been sourcing their product via ASEAN, misusing their free trade agreement with ASEAN. RCEP के डिबेट में ये बात तभी से चल रही थी. तो वहाँ पर ये बात आपको जानना था that China can have a free trade agreement with ASEAN. Australia has a free trade agreement with ASEAN. Again, during RCEP debate, it kept coming in that Australians already have a free trade agreement with ASEAN. What's the problem of negotiating an RCEP? So the only two countries which don't have it is Canada and USA. Your answer here would be 1, 3, 4, and 5. Australia, China, India, and Japan have free trade agreement. एक और तरीका था इसको सीखने का. तरीका था, if you knew the RCEP negotiation, you would know that Australia, China, Japan, and India were negotiating RCEP with ASEAN, and it was continuously in news then that ASEAN has an FTA with all of these. तो सिखाना ये चाह रहा हूँ, I'm trying to teach you that when you read about trade agreements, when you read about even bilateral agreements, like India having a bilateral agreement with Australia and so on, in those news clippets, these kind of news are there. उन news clips में ऐसे news भी होते हैं. उनको use करो ज़रूर. Use them and that will help you. The next question we see, with reference to Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, consider the following statement. It is a flagship scheme of Ministry of Labour and Employment. बस ये बात गलत हो गई. Ministry of Skill Development की scheme है ये. PMKVY is a scheme run by Ministry of Skill Development. So that is the wrong statement here. Again, PMKVY was launched just 1 year back before this paper. तो वो चेक कर रहे थे आपने, और Ministry of Skill Development का formation किया था सरकार ने अलग से. तो चेक कर रहे थे आप जानते हो या नहीं. They wanted to know whether you know about it or not. That PMKVY is under Ministry of Skill Development. And it has imparts training in soft skills, entrepreneurship, financial and digital literacy. Correct. It aims to align the competencies of unregulated workforce to nation skill qualification framework. Correct. How do we know? The PIB on PMKVY had all these details. तभी मैंने क्लास के शुरुआत में आपको कहा कि कुछ क्वेश्चंस प्रेस इंफॉर्मेशन ब्यूरो रिपोर्ट पे सीधा बेस्ड होते हैं. All these 3 points were taken using the press information bureau report. All these 3 points were taken using the press information bureau report. The PIBs had the details. So if somebody had read the PIB on PMKVY, you would get the answer to all these things. You would know that it's Ministry of Skill Development, and you would know, okay, PIB was mentioning it, so the points remain correct. Your answer here is second and third statements are correct. Your answer here will be that second and third statement is correct. The next question we see is, which one of the following statement correctly describes meaning of legal tender money? अब एक सिंपल सी बात समझना, लीगल टेंडर का मतलब होता है you are legally bound to respect your contract. You are legally bound to respect your contract. Now this is by elimination of option. The money which is tendered in courts of law to defray the legal cases. अगर आप थोड़ा भी NCERT पढ़े हो तो आप जानोगे ये आंसर नहीं हो सकता. Your NCERT will straight away tell you that this cannot be an answer. Then the money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claims. That is the form. Under compulsion. Under compulsion by whom? The court of law. The money which the creditor is under compulsion to accept, as entitlement is your legal tender money. So in that case, B becomes your answer. Bank money in the form of checks, drafts, bills of exchange, no. Bills of exchange are not necessarily legal tender. Then and so on. वैसे भी etc लिखा देखो तो वैसे ही डर जाओ. Etc brings a position of ambiguity. So questions with etc cannot give you a correct answer necessarily. And then they say metallic money in circulation is not legal tender. It's sovereign guaranteed fiat money. इस तरह का मनी जो है ये fiat money होता है. ये legal tender हो जरूरी नहीं. This is fiat money. So it is not a legal tender. It is fiat money that we have. So in that case, our answer will be B. The answer to this question you will give will be B. All right. The next question we see is, if a commodity is provided free to the public by government, then, अब opportunity cost पे सवाल है. तो opportunity cost का मतलब क्या होता है? The cost of sacrificing the next best alternative. The cost of sacrificing the next best alternative. तो अब सोचो, opportunity cost is 0. ये तो हो नहीं सकता. क्यों? Everything, if the government is providing a free to the public a commodity, उस commodity की अपनी value होगी, resource cost होगा. तो किसी भी चीज का अगर resource cost है तो वो zero value का तो नहीं हो सकता. If anything has a resource cost, it cannot have zero opportunity cost. Zero opportunity cost only applies if a thing can be used nowhere else. और if it has no resource cost. अगर किसी चीज़ को बनाने में कुछ खर्चा नहीं लगे तो वो zero opportunity cost है. अगर किसी चीज़ को कहीं इस्तेमाल ना किया जा सके तो वो zero opportunity cost है. If I cannot use anything anywhere or I don't use any expenditure in producing something, then only zero opportunity cost. Then it says the opportunity cost is ignored. No, it cannot be ignored. Government को तो पैसे देने हैं, so it cannot be ignored. तो पहले दो तो ऐसे ही हम reject कर देंगे, ये सही आंसर नहीं हो सकते. The opportunity cost is transferred from consumers to tax-paying public. Now think, who is the beneficiary here? The consumer of the commodity? नहीं तो इस commodity का खर्चा किसे करना पड़ता? Consumer को. और पैसे लिए किससे जा रहे हैं? Tax-paying public से. Who is paying this money? Tax-paying public. So the opportunity cost is transferred from the consumer. Consumer को खर्च करना था, अब उन्हें नहीं करना. To the tax-paying public. उनको ये कमोडिटी पे नहीं खर्च करना था लेकिन उनके टैक्सेस से ये खर्चा पूरा किया जा रहा है. इसीलिए दिस आंसर बिकम्स द करेक्ट आंसर. दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट इज ट्रांसफर्ड फ्रॉम द कंज्यूमर्स. जिन्होंने कंज्यूम, दोज हु कंज्यूम्ड इट वुड हैव आइडियली पेड फॉर इट, बट दे आर नॉट पेइंग इट एनी मोर, दे आर गेटिंग इट फ्री. सो फ्रॉम देम इट इज ट्रांसफर्ड टू टैक्स पेइंग पब्लिक. You will say, sir, but why not transferred from the consumers of the product to the government? Opportunity cost is transferred from consumers of the product to the government. No, government doesn't create its own money. Government is dependent on resources that it collects. So it is not transferred from consumers to the government. सरकार अपनी जेब से कुछ भी खर्च नहीं करती. Government doesn't spend money from its own pocket. The money is spent using others' resources, and that is where it comes in. All right, so D is not correct because of that. It's the tax-paying public money which is being used here. NCERT Micro first chapter discusses opportunity cost. So if you have read your NCERT again, it will help you in solving such questions. The next question we see, increase in absolute and per capita real GNP do not connote a higher level of economic development. Do not. इनको लेकर प्रीलिम्स में जरूर कॉन्शियस रहना. कोनोट करता है या नहीं करता, ये नॉट लगाते हैं जब बीच बीच में तो मीनिंग उल्टा हो जाता है. माइंड डजंट एक्सेप्ट इट एज दैट. So be conscious about where they have put a not, where they have put doesn't. Negatives के लिए जरूर तैयार रहना कि negative कहाँ लगा रहे हैं. It changes the meaning. So do not connote higher level of economic development. Industrial output fails to keep pace with agricultural output. Nothing to do with economic development. Economic development is inclusive growth. When inclusive growth happens in a country, you tend to focus on economic development. Then agricultural output fails to keep pace, nothing to do with that. Poverty and unemployment increase, that's true. Even if your GDP is rising, GNP is rising, but poverty is rising, that cannot be called development. So this was asked from the concept of inclusive growth. ये जो सवाल पूछा गया था, ये inclusive growth के concept से था. That poverty is rising, then in that case you cannot have development. Straight away choose your C as the answer. That without inclusive growth, you cannot have economic development. The next question we see is, consider the following statements. Human capital as a concept is better explained in terms of. So human capital क्या है? Education, healthcare, that is human capital. So it enables individuals of a country to accumulate more capital. नहीं, capital का मतलब क्या होता है? Physical asset, goods used for further production. Goods used for further production is capital. But human capital doesn't necessarily allow people to add to their physical capital. So this statement is incorrect. Increasing the knowledge, skill level and capacities of people of the country. True, that's human capital. That you increase to knowledge base, you increase the skill base, capacity of the people. That's of course human capital. 3, accumulation of tangible wealth. Accumulation of tangible wealth. Tangible का मतलब होता है जिसे तुम देख सकते हो, छू सकते हो. The one you can touch and see. But think, knowledge, health, you can't touch and see. They are intangible. So 3 becomes incorrect. Accumulation of intangible wealth becomes correct. 2 and 4 become correct. Such questions will need time. Be willing to spend time. ऐसे questions में आपका वक्त लगेगा, वक्त देने को तैयार रहो, correct हो जाएगा answer. In such questions, apply yourself a little. Give 3 to 4 minutes, doesn't matter. You will definitely get a correct answer here. 2 से 2.5 मिनट लगेंगे इनको सॉल्व करने में, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, पक्का सही आंसर मिलेगा. बिकॉज इफ यू अप्लाई योरसेल्फ यू विल नो दैट इट इज अबाउट स्किल डेवलपमेंट एंड इट इज अबाउट नॉन टैंजिबल वेल्थ. Because education and healthcare cannot be seen. Okay. The next question that we see, despite being a high saving economy, capital formation may not result in significant increase in output due to, now only if you understood this concept, you will surely mark this. High capital output ratio. See, capital, we use K for capital in economics. Capital upon output, we use Y for output in economics. This is the ratio. This shows amount of capital needed, to produce extra units of output. Amount of capital needed to produce extra units of output. तो सोचो अब, if your capital output ratio is high, if this is high, it means inefficiency in capital use. Inefficiency in capital use. And inefficiency in capital use will lead to this high capital output ratio. So that is the problem part here. The inefficiency in capital use will lead to this high capital output ratio. So hence, अगर आपकी सेविंग्स हाई हैं, इवन इफ यू आर अ हाई सेविंग इकोनॉमी, if capital formation investment is not happening, it can be due to high capital output ratio. Look for the economics behind it, the economic reason. Remember, illiteracy, population density, weak administrative machinery are not directly related to capital formation. Capital formation is investment. तो ये चीज़ें डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड ही नहीं है कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन से. देयर आर कंट्रीज वेयर पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी इज हाई एंड स्टिल हाई कैपिटल. There are countries where illiteracy can be high, like India had high illiteracy in 50s and 60s, but our capital formation was high because of planning process. And similarly, weak administrative machinery can be there, but still you can have high capital infusion. So that has nothing to do with capital infusion. It's only about high capital output ratio, which will reduce your capacity to add capital, add output. If your output growth is low, savings will not be able to contribute much to your investment. The next question that we see, consider the following statements. RBI manages and services Government of India securities, but not any state government securities. Incorrect statement. It manages state government securities also. अब ये कहाँ पता चलता है हमें? RBI के जो publications आते हैं, especially when they talk about, when RBI gives its financial stability report for India, they give you all these details. So that is where ideally we should know that RBI manages both central government securities and state government securities. Then they said treasury bills are issued by the Government of India and there are no treasury bills issued by the state governments. This is correct. Treasury bills are issued by the Government of India and there are no treasury bills issued by the state government. State government is not allowed to issue treasury bills. State governments are allowed to issue bonds on which they can borrow from the market. And Government of India fixes the amount that, or the percentage of state GDP that they can borrow from the market. 15th Finance Commission report के अंदर, now the state governments are allowed to borrow up to 4% of their GDP. Under 15th Finance Commission reports, now the state governments are allowed to borrow up to 4% of their state GDP. ये छोटे छोटे information ज़रूर याद रखना. Till now, state governments were allowed to borrow 3% of their state GDP. तो FRBM Act के आने के बाद only 3% of state GDP was allowed. Now 4% is allowed. And then treasury bills offer are issued at discount from the par value. Correct. Discount from the par value means that if it is a 10 rupee bill, you will be getting lesser than 10 rupee because the rest will be kind of an interest rate of or yield that you have to pay to the central bank. So treasury bills are always issued at a discount on the par value. आप एक लोन देते हो ना, तो 10 रुपए के बिल के बदले पूरे 10 रुपए थोड़ी दोगे, कम दोगे और कहोगे मुझे 10 रुपए वापस करना आप. So discount at a par value. Money market reading. So your answer is 2 and 3, of course. I chose this question for a reason. Money market is where you should focus on. और हर साल ऐसे question रहते हैं, तो money market understanding is what is needed here. You know, treasury bills, repo rate, bond market, ये ज़रूर पढ़ो. इनसे हर साल एक या दो सवाल रहता ही है. 1 or 2 questions from here, so you must have an understanding of this. The next question is, consider the following statements. Capital adequacy ratio is the amount that banks have to maintain in the form of their own funds to offset any loss that can occur if the account holders fail to repay dues. Correct? Capital adequacy ratio is exactly defined as this. और ये है क्या? Your tier 1 capital with the banks plus tier 2 capital with the banks as a ratio of risk weighted assets. You know, risk weighted assets. तो ये क्यों रखते हैं बैंक कि अच्छा अगर अचानक डिफॉल्ट हो जाए, पेमेंट ना आए, तो कैसे आप डिपॉजिटर्स को कन्विंस करोगे कि आपका पैसा सेफ है? If you don't get payments immediately or there's a default, how will you convince the depositors that your money is safe, don't worry about it? And then CAR is decided by each individual bank. No, it's decided by central bank of the country. How much will be the capital adequacy ratio is decided by central bank of the country. So second statement is incorrect, first statement is correct, so your answer will be one only. You know, if they say how much, which of them is correct. एक बात का ध्यान रखना, कभी कभी क्वेश्चन पूछते हुए लिख देते हैं not correct. So be very careful in reading your questions in the prelims exam. If they ask you something on not correct, then accordingly you should answer it. All right. But in this case, they ask us which one is correct. Only the first one is correct. Then they say, with reference to the provisions made under NFSA 2013, consider the following statements. Families considered the category of BPL are only eligible. ये only word से objection हो गया हमें. NFSA covers almost 67% of India's population, covering both below poverty line and above poverty line people. तो ये first statement गलत. Eldest woman in a household, age 18 years or above, shall be the head of the household for purpose of issuance of ration card. Correct. This was a condition made there. ये condition लगाया गया था कि eldest woman with 18 years above age should be the head so that the money goes into her account. And third was, pregnant and lactating mothers are entitled to a take-home ration of 1600 calories per day during pregnancy and for 6 months thereafter. Incorrect. इसी साल मातृत्व वंदना योजना की इंट्रोडक्शन हुआ था, मातृत्व वंदु योजना. इसके अंदर all women were given 5,000 rupees, pregnant and lactating women, for the purpose of child delivery. So it was not about 1600 calories, it was cash transfer which was made, and so this statement goes incorrect. So the only correct statement you have is 2, so your answer will be 2 only. Now what I tried teaching you across in this video, the idea is to make sure that you understand how to choose questions. These are all previous year questions. I'm trying to teach you where they are picking it up from. All of this could have been answered again if PIB on NFSA was studied. National Food Security Act remains important even now. उसके details हमें ज़रूर पता होने चाहिए. Socio-economic caste census से decide होता है poverty, वो पता होना चाहिए. And that will allow you, these information sets will allow you to write better answers. So we'll keep taking ourselves ahead this way. That is the way to go forward when you talk about how to solve questions in prelims. So in economics, I will design the system like this, where I will talk to you on 20 odd questions each, sometimes 20, sometimes 25, and so on, 15. And that way we will try covering each and every day how we can, resolve on these issues. So learn from this, revise these questions, and try understanding the crux, which one to pick, which one not to pick. GST वाला question, typical question था, मत solve करो ऐसे सवाल, पक्का नंबर कटवाएंगे तुम्हारे. ये questions हैं जो तुम पढ़े रहते हो paper 2 के लिए भी, paper 3 के लिए भी. You have studied NFSA kind of things in detail. Do go and attempt it. All right. So then we'll stay here. Thank you. Thanks a lot.